My name is Clara Sullivan. I am 38 years old and I live in Silverwood Estates, a neighborhood that looks perfect from the outside, with its manicured lawns and pristine sidewalks. But beyond that shiny exterior, there lies a darker story filled with betrayal, revenge, and a taste of sweet justice. For many years, I dedicated myself to my husband, Harry, who was the kindest man you could ever meet. He had this wonderful way of making everyone around him feel valued. He worked maintenance for a high-end townhouse association where most of the residents were either successful doctors or business executives. Harry was only 20 when he started there, but he was hardworking and reliable, often taking on extra responsibilities and earning the respect of homeowners. Most of them adored him, often asking him for favors and paying him generously for his extra time. But one woman, Dottie, stood in stark contrast to everyone else. Dottie was a wealthy widow who lived in the community, someone whose whole existence revolved around her money and her entitlement. She had never worked a day in her life, yet she acted as though the world owed her everything. Whenever I heard the stories of how she treated others, my heart sank. She was notorious for causing problems, having countless disputes with the HOA that often escalated to the point of legal threats. She was universally disliked, and I felt it every time Harry came home, sharing stories about her arrogance. Dottie often cornered him, demanding he abandon his work and prioritize her needs. When she requested odd jobs done for her on the HOA's time, Harry always stood firm in his refusal, explaining that he only followed orders given by Mark, the HOA president. Well, not long after, Dottie ran for the HOA president position herself. It was beyond me how anyone would vote for her, yet a few residents thought it might be amusing to give her the power just to see what it felt like to be on the other side of her complaints. The moment she got elected, her first act was to fire Harry. I remember the day he came home, his face pale with disbelief as he told me the news. "She fought me on unemployment, Clara," he said, trying to hold back his frustration. I could see the hurt in his eyes, and I was devastated for him. How could anyone be so cruel? We later learned from mutual friends that Dottie was relentless in her efforts to keep Harry from receiving benefits. She was not just fighting for her power, but also trying to crush his spirit. Days passed, and I felt this intense need to help my husband. Then, one day, as Harry stood in line at the grocery store, he ran into a couple of homeowners who had witnessed the entire ordeal. They approached him with apologies, expressing their shock at what had happened. As they chatted, I could see a glimmer of hope start to spark in his eyes. They mentioned they planned to support him at the hearing, which filled me with excitement and anticipation. I began to realize that maybe, just maybe, the people in this community were not all like Dottie. When the day of the hearing arrived, my heart raced as Harry stepped into the conference room. He was met with Dottie's cold glare, but he was not alone. Mark, with the support of several other homeowners, had hired an attorney for him, which was quite a generous move. As they began the proceedings, Dottie struggled to justify her actions. She tossed out crazy accusations, claiming Harry had refused requests that were never part of his job, and the courtroom felt heavy with anticipation. The attorney spoke with confidence as he produced evidence that showed Dottie's complaints were unfounded. And as I sat there, my anger grew. I wanted her to know how wrong she was, how petty her actions had been. When two homeowners testified, gushing with praise for Harry, I could sense the tide turning. Did they really mean those words? Yes, they did. The look on Dottie's face changed from smugness to a deep, furious red as they laid out the facts. Then, the final moment came when one homeowner boldly stated, "The only reason Dottie fired him is she is a vindictive woman." I almost laughed out loud at her furious expression. Dottie looked as if she might choke on air right then and there. Harry was awarded unemployment benefits, but that would not be the last of it. The satisfaction did not stop after the hearing. The news quickly spread through our neighborhood like wildfire. People began to rally around Harry, sharing their own experiences with Dottie's arrogance and mistreatment. I realized that it wasn't enough for Dottie to be embarrassed in front of a few people. She needed to feel the weight of her actions in a much larger context. A little plot formed in my mind. With the cooperation of the other homeowners, we organized a gathering at the community center, publicly celebrating Harry's victory. We invited everyone in the neighborhood and made sure that Dottie would be aware of it. I can still remember the look on her face when she walked in and saw everyone smiling, laughing, and mingling, all while sharing stories of their own encounters with her entitled attitude. You could see the discomfort wash over her instantly. Harry stood by my side, and I could tell he was feeling more powerful than ever. In that moment, as we recounted the ridiculousness of her antics, I saw the life returning to his eyes. It was so satisfying to finally give her a taste of the justice she thought she was above. As the night progressed, Dottie's fury bubbled over. She attempted to confront Harry, but he simply smiled at her, reclaiming his narrative, giving her back a piece of what she loved to take away from others. That night, it all culminated into a roaring laugh at the absurdity of it all, one final twist that left Dottie just as alone as she had made others feel. Life in Silverwood Estates settled back into a new normal. Harry found a new job, and we turned our attention to celebrating the community spirit the event had ignited. People started to engage positively with each other, forging new friendships and bonds. Dottie's power had crumbled along with her reputation. Some who once feared her began to speak up and reclaim their own voices. In my heart, I knew it was not just about the petty squabbles or the disputes over rules that defined us. It was about standing up against the wrongs and coming together as a community. Harry became a symbol of resilience and defiance, while Dottie was left to spiral into her own bitterness. And as we embraced this new chapter, I would never forget how standing up together could change everything. It turns out, sometimes revenge is just the beginning of the healing process.